Hello everyone, my name is AJ, and I haven't come up with a good intro yet. In today's video, I'll be reimagining Husker and Nifty from Hazbin Hotel. Quick disclaimer, I'm not trying to fix the show. This is for an alternate universe which I have decided to call the bed and breakfast for former baddies. Please be nice to me, I am sensitive. I decided to start with Husker. Husker is the only design in the entire show that I do not like. It hurts my eyes to look at him, and that's not an exaggeration for the sake of comedy. There's just so much visual noise that it literally hurts me. Husker's design is extremely cluttered. There's so much detail going on everywhere. The worst part of his design is the wings. There's just so much detail, and they're such a bright color that they draw your eye away from his face. Usually you want your character's face to draw the most attention. It's just so vital for expressing any emotion. Also, I hate that he has buttons on his bare chest. It bothers me so much. Just give him a shirt. I also don't like how skinny he is. Somehow my brain convinced me that he was chunky. I have no idea why I thought this. I think it has something to do with his voice, and maybe the way that he's posed occasionally. I'm not quite sure. That super deep, super masculine voice just does not fit with that super skinny body. It messes with my brain every time I hear him speak. So I decided to make him chunky. This is a little difficult for me. I think that chunky body types are the most difficult body type to draw. There's just so much mass there, and it can be difficult to wrap your head around where all the fat is attached, how it's supposed to fall, and how clothes might fall around it. I think males with this body type are even more difficult to draw than the women. With women, I can use my own body as reference. I'm not ashamed to admit I'm a little chunky right now. I can't do that with dudes, though. Eventually, though, I did prevail. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's good enough. Doing the clothes was the easiest part. When I designed Vaggie, I decided that all of the staff of the bed and breakfast would wear a uniform. I designed the male version of the uniform when I made Alistair, so I didn't have to make too many changes. I still wanted to customize it a little, so I decided to draw buttons on Husker's version of it. Husk's original design has a lot of heart symbols all over him as a reference to the card suits. I decided to carry this through in my design. I made his buttons heart-shaped and his nose a spade. This also adds to the almost heart shape of the cuffs. I left the top two unbuttoned so we can still get some of that chest fluff poking through. Husk is a huge alcoholic, and I imagine fairly sloppy, so I think that the way that his outfit is styled really gets that across. I based him off a Maine Coon, which I believe is the largest breed of cat in the world. Maine Coons, like their name suggests, have manes, and I wanted to give Husk a beard, so this was absolutely perfect. Now, Husk in the original show was from the 1970s, but that would mean I would have to get rid of the top hat and bow tie, and I didn't want to do that. So I decided to switch his time period with Angel Dust. Now, Angel Dust will be from the 1970s, and Husk will be from the 1940s. Husk is also supposed to be a magician, so if anyone should be keeping the top hat and bow tie, it's him. I also decided to exchange his wings for a magician's cape while I was at it. He really needed something on his back, but I can't in good conscience give him wings. Wings just have too much symbolic significance in this show for just this random drunk cat to have them. Now it's color time. I love the cool brown color they used in the original design, so I color picked it directly. I already had the colors for the uniform set in stone, so the rest of the process was figuring out where exactly to put the green. Yeah, that's right, I switched out the yellow of his original design for green. Husk's sin is definitely greed, and the green ring is green, so I had to. There was also something about the face that was still missing something, so I added the heart shapes above his eyebrows back in and gave him some whiskers. I also added some whiskers above his eyebrows since a lot of cats have an extra pair of whiskers up there. I also decided to overcomplicate them just a little bit by adding black stripes to them. Husk used to be an overlord, so I thought giving him extra unnecessary details will help him look more the part. At the last minute, I switched out the bright white for a cream color. The perfect white was overpowering the brown a little too much for my taste. Now for the writing. I couldn't find out much about what Husk's life was like before he died. I also haven't heard any rumors or headcanons about what it used to be like either. The only clues that I had was that he was a failed magician, traveled a lot, and grew up in Las Vegas. But that's not much to go off of. Writing a character is kind of like I can't talk today, my goodness. Writing a character is kind of like a stool. You need to have at least 3 legs in order to have something that will stand under pressure. We have our setting, 1940s Las Vegas. That's 1 leg. We also have a magician that traveled a lot. That's 2 legs. We need 1 more. So after doing some thinking, I decided to snatch that leg from Angel Dust. The Mafia. In my opinion, being in the Mafia fits Husk a lot more than Angel. Husk just fits the vibe better in my opinion. I think it would also explain why this random sinner was able to become an overlord in the first place. He's already got experience doing this kind of thing. Without further ado, here's my idea. Husk's Mafia started during Prohibition, but when that ended, they pivoted to selling other types of drugs and loan sharking. Husk started as a simple grunt, but over the years he climbed the ranks until he was one of their top hitmen. He was called the Magician for his ability to make people disappear without a trace. Any idiot can kill someone if they tried hard enough. It's a whole nother ballgame to make them vanish entirely. Despite this, he was pretty broke the majority of his life. He had a horrible gambling addiction that he never broke, and it got him in trouble with his own people. It doesn't matter how much of an asset you are if you're stealing from your employers to feed your addictions. He spent the last years of his life running from people he owed money until he couldn't disappear anymore. The reason why Husk is a cat is because black cats are associated with misfortune. Cats are also often considered to be cowardly or easily spooked like Husk was in his last years. There's also the saying that curiosity killed the cat, which is also true for Husk. It wasn't his curiosity that killed him, it was somebody else's curiosity about where the Mafia's money was going that got him killed. He got killed by an accountant, which is really funny to me. Sorry. Next up is Nifty. I love Nifty's design. I think she has one of the best ones in the whole show. All of her colors have great contrast, she's got a wonderful silhouette, and her chaotic energy is communicated perfectly. All of my issues with her are very nitpicky. 1, her facial features combined with her height make her look very young in this art style. 2, I wish her bangs were styled more to reflect her time period. And 3, take that bandana from her neck and put it on her head. So that's what I did. Nifty is supposed to be an insect of some kind. I heard someone say ladybug, so I decided to go with that. I wanted to emphasize the bug stuff more because she does not read as a bug at all. I started by giving her an abdomen. I know that ladybugs don't really have an abdomen that looks like that, but do I care? No, it looks cute. I gave her the same uniform that I designed for Vaggie and put a lacy apron on top of it. I also added some modifications to the back for her abdomen to get through without changing the shape of the dress. This is also to prevent upskirt shenanigans in universe. I wanted to give her 6 limbs, but also 6 limbs is a lot of arms to deal with, so I gave her 1 pair of shoulders that have 2 arms attached to it. To make her a little easier to animate, I decided no hands. I shaped them like actual ladybug legs instead. She'll have to use them like those grabby hand thingies. You know the things I'm talking about. I'll put a picture up on screen. Now for the face. I struggled with the face shape a bit, but landed on something I liked. Still very round, but with a little bit more definition to it. I also gave her some heavier lipstick, which also helps. Nifty is from the 1950s, so I wanted to give her a hairstyle from that time period. From the pictures I saw, super curled up bangs were in fashion, so I gave Nifty some of those. I wanted to preserve the rest of her hair though. I think the shape of it looks really nice, so I kept the back part exactly the same. The only thing I toned back was the size of it, but that's more just an art style thing, not a redesign thing. I decided her accent color would be orange for Wrath. I don't like orange very much, but I did find this super cute pale orange color that I really liked. I wasn't quite sure what to do with the spots. I really wanted to add them because, you know, ladybug, but spots are a hard thing for me to design. I don't use a lot of spots in my art. I drew the abdomen by itself to plan out what they would look like and then put them on my actual drawing of her. I wanted to go with something very simple. There's a reason why Miraculous Ladybug was animated in 3D instead of 2D. The spots were really hard to track and were making people nauseous to look at, so they had to change it to 3D. So, only a few spots. I also put some spots on her bandana. The last thing I added was a gigantic hole in the back of her head underneath her bandana. I wanted to make it all gory and gross, but I was too scared to look for references. I don't mind gore art, but I don't want to accidentally stumble across pictures of actual dead bodies, so I don't go looking for it. I can't put that on YouTube anyway without accidentally traumatizing children, so you're getting cartoons. If somebody would like to draw it realistic and send it to me, I would love that. I, for the life of me, couldn't find anything about Nifty's backstory. I searched through 2 wikis and found nothing about what her previous life was like, so I'm gonna have to make something up. My only point of reference from the wiki to go off of was that she was from the 1950s. That does give me something to work with, even if it's not much. I heard whisperings that Nifty was lobotomized, murdered her husband, and was shot to death, but I couldn't find anything in the 2 wikis I read to confirm that. But do I care? No! Whispers, rumors, and hints are way better than just peeing in the dark. So I am going to use these few little clues to craft something myself. So without further ado, here's my version of Nifty. Nifty was born with autism. Autism had only been discovered 30 years before she was born, and not very much was known about it at the time. She won't get diagnosed with it until she gets to the bed and breakfast. She was in and out of asylums growing up, each time seeming to come back a little worse. If you think mental hospitals today aren't great, just wait until you hear about 1950s era asylums. To say they were horrible doesn't even begin to describe it. Staff treated patients horribly, lobotomists were used to treat a ton of mental disorders no matter how slight, and if you were really unlucky, you would be used as a guinea pig for experiments. They were especially terrible to women since women could be admitted and kept there forcefully for very mild conditions. Many perfectly sane women had their minds destroyed there just from the accusations of mental conditions. Now imagine a young girl having to go through that. It's no wonder why Nifty would develop sadistic and masochistic tendencies. The human brain often turns trauma into pleasure to cope. All of that is completely unrelated to autism, by the way. I can't believe I have to say that, but there are some people out there that are just that dumb, and I don't want to risk confusing anyone. Autism does not make you violent. Anyway, in the 1940s, lobotomies were popularized by Dr. Walter Freeman II. He developed a method called the ice pick method, where an ice pick would be driven through the thin bone of the eye socket to get to the prefrontal cortex. This method was developed with the goal in mind of making lobotomies simpler so that any assailant could perform them. However, this method was incredibly dangerous, fairly deadly, and more often than not, completely ineffective. Though Nifty came 10 years after this, that doesn't mean that this kind of lobotomy couldn't have been performed on her. It just would have been, not it just wouldn't have been as normal a thing to do. Nifty was released to her parents' care again after her operation. A common symptom of brain damage is rage, and rage in the hands of a sadist is a very dangerous tool. Nifty used this tool to murder her parents. She didn't just murder them though, she made sure that their deaths were slow and painful. That was the sin that kept her from heaven. It wasn't the murder itself, it was the intention behind the murder. Her intention wasn't to escape them, it was to hurt them. She was later shot and killed by the police while fleeing the scene of the crime. Out of all the sinners I've drawn so far, Nifty's body is probably the most ironic and cruel. Nifty hates bugs, so she's become a bug. She's only got one eye because of the operation she went through. She has a gigantic hole in the back of her head from where it was blown off by a shotgun, and worst of all though, is probably her height. Nifty was always a short woman, but she's been shrunk to a measly 3.5 feet tall. Her height reminds her of being a child again, subject to the whims of the adults around her. Nifty doesn't know how to make her own decisions. The only thing she thinks she's good at is cleaning, so it's all she does. She cleans obsessively, but also never feels clean. The best her brain can do for her in terms of healing is just to ignore all the problems and embrace the labels she's been given. She's been told her entire life that she's crazy, so she subconsciously acts more unhinged around people she isn't close to. She doesn't exaggerate as much around people that she's known a long time though, like Alistair and Husk. As she comes to know the people of the bed and breakfast better, she'll be herself more and more. My biggest critique of Hazbin Hotel is how they handle the premise. We're told the whole show that the exterminations are unnecessarily cruel and that sinners don't deserve it, but every sinner we see outside of the main cast is completely irredeemable. Even in the main cast, everyone is still pretty terrible. Literally all of them have murdered people and enjoyed it at some point in the show. Literally the only time the main cast bond with each other is when they're in combat. How am I supposed to feel like these people ought to go to heaven when the only time they're having fun is when they're doing violent sin? So I want to change that, and I think I've got a really good start here with Nifty. I don't think Nifty deserves to be turned to salt. Out of all the characters I've written so far, Nifty is the only one that I can't really make a case against. That's not to say that she doesn't deserve to be in hell in the first place. She's a danger to herself and the people around her, and until she grows past that, she needs to stay. It's like when a person gets acquitted for insanity. They don't just get to be released into the public, they get taken to a mental ward and treated until they are no longer a danger to society. This same principle applies to Nifty. If she gets treated for brain damage, some good medication, and counseling for her mental issues, she can make a full recovery and go to heaven without issue. She is exactly the type of person that Charlie started her bed and breakfast for. She has the potential for heaven, she just needs some help to get there. Help that she couldn't possibly get when she was alive. Husk can probably also redeem himself, but he needs the desire first. And who better to provide this desire than our favorite little deer man? In the original show, Husk's soul was owned by Alistair. I'm pretty sure that Nifty is owned by him too, but it's a little unclear. Whatever the case, both of their souls belong to Alistair in the bed and breakfast. Part of the reason why I gave them both pale faces that don't match the rest of their body and eye sockets is to match Alistair. When a demon owns a sinner's soul, that sinner will take on some of the physical characteristics of their owner. I don't know if this is a perfect rule in the original show, but I really like it, so I'm using it. My version of Alistair got a hold of Husk's soul the same way that he did in the original show. I've actually got an idea in my head for the exact scene, which I'm planning on animating after I'm done with this video, so no spoilers this time. As for Nifty, we have no idea how he acquired her soul in the original show, but on the wiki it describes her as being far too trusting of any and all men, so we're gonna go with that. He offered her a job as his maid and handed her the contract. Her lobotomy makes it hard for her to read, and even if she could, she wouldn't have read all the way through it anyway, so that's how that happened. She doesn't mind her soul being owned by Alistair anyway. He treats her well. Husk absolutely minds it. It's not so much the way that Alistair treats him that's the big issue, it's the fact that he's owned it all that really bothers him. Just like in my previous videos, I'm going to end this script with my pitch for episode 4 of the Bed and Breakfast for Former Baddies. Here's a summary of the episode so far. In episode 1, Charlie and Vaggie met for the first time and become friends. Heaven's clock tower starts ticking down twice as fast as usual, which sends people into a panic. They spend most of the episode bonding together while fixing up the bed and breakfast and trying to get anyone at all to come and stay there. The episode ends with Angel Dust arriving on his own after seeing one of their posters. In episode 2, we get to see Angel Dust's first ever therapy session with Charlie. Charlie has a TV interview with Katie Killjoy that really doesn't go well. We meet Alistair for the first time, and also Serpentius makes an appearance at the end and gets beat up immediately. In episode 3, a whole lot happens. Charlie takes a meeting with Adam, leader of the angelic armies, and pitches her idea to him and Eve. Adam thinks she's trying to trick him, so that doesn't go well. In that same episode, Alistair goes to an Overlord meeting, and we find out that an angel has been killed. We get a short scene with the V's at the end, and they send Serpentius to go spy on Alistair for them. If you want to see those episodes more in depth, go watch my other videos. I will have them linked in a playlist at the end for your viewing convenience. Episode 3 was very plot heavy, so it's time for something a lot lighter. We've got a lot of characters, and we need some time to bond with them. Without further ado, Episode 4. Episode 4 begins exactly where Episode 3 ended, with Serpentius appearing at the front door. He says he's there to redeem himself. No one really trusts him considering that he's attacked them before, but Charlie decides to give him a chance. We'll have him meet the rest of the gang in the exact same fashion as in Episode 2 of the original show. We get a scene with him, Charlie, Vaggie, and Angel doing some icebreaker games. It'll be extremely awkward at first. Nifty will join them a few minutes after they start, and things will get a little more relaxed from there. Serpentius would be a little uncomfortable with Nifty at first, cause she's a weird little freak with a weird little crush on him, but after a while they'll start to click. The episode will span over the course of a few days. We'll get to see Serpentius attempt to do some actual spying on Alistair. He's not good at it at all. Alistair pretends to be oblivious and enjoys messing with him. As Serpentius starts to connect with the other members of the group, Angel starts to get a little jealous. Does Angel want to change at this point? A little bit. Not enough to put in any actual effort, but a bit. It irks him that everyone else has known him longer, but it seems like they like Serpentius a lot better, even though he's so horribly socially awkward. Angel will do what he always does when he's going through anything stressful. He turns to drugs. Charlie designed the bed and breakfast to help people get off drugs with Husk's bar. He's there to monitor and make sure that people can get high safely and slowly wean them off it instead of going cold turkey. When Husk cuts him off for the night, Angel goes out to buy some weed from his dealer. His dealer offers him crack instead. Crack is a much more dangerous drug than weed, but Angel is desperate for a high, so he buys it and smuggles it into his room. He has a really bad trip and wakes up very sick in the middle of the night. When he's done puking, he notices that Serpentius is up too. When he goes to investigate, he finds Serpentius putting up spy cameras in the study. The scene plays out exactly how it does in the original show. They fight, Charlie and Vaggie come downstairs to find out what's going on, Vox denies Serpentius' request for help, and we get the song It Starts With Sorry. We'll end it with Nifty's crush going away after she sees that Serpentius is not a bad boy, and also Alistair mocking Vox after everyone else goes to bed. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and a special thanks to my patron, Mercer Scott Holt. You're the greatest. I take commissions, here are my prices. If you want one, you can DM me on Instagram or through Discord, but Ko-fi gets priority. All the links are in the description. Let me know which character you want to see next, and I'll see you all in a super cool video next week that I really hope I actually finished in time. See ya!